feel great.
Well, don't forget that it's all, they just were made, so we didn't have time to mess them up.
Oh.
You know, you have to characterize a character, and you have to, you know, sort of imagine, you know, everything about this person. This is the scarf from Vietnam, a real one. And I think that there was a bullet hole there. That's my theory. Another option for...
From Vietnam, not military, but...
No, not military, but the military wore it too. It's woven in Vietnam. It's from Vietnam War.
I don't know when my next day off will be, but I'll be happy when it comes. And we've got this Jeep to work out, so who knows how long that's gonna take.
What's the Jeep for?
The Jeep comes on when Swiss cheese, when his body is brought in and Mother Courage says, no, I don't know him.
Kennst du ihn? Was? Du hast ihn nie gesehen, Feuer eine Mahlzeit bei dir genommen hat?
Lights up.
You never saw him before you served him supper?
It drives on, it's got the body on the stage, and then it backs off the stage. We've known from the beginning that George really wants this. It's like this great way of bringing the production into this contemporary time period. So we're gonna have to convert it to electric. And the first idea was, okay, well, we get a golf cart chassis and put the Jeep body on top of that.
We're in really good shape. I'd like to have it done by, I'd like to be driving it into the day tomorrow.
Great.
You are a certain amount of hourly labor. And to see yourself that way is not, on the whole, attractive. Because what it means for Marx is somebody who is made and has very little say in their own making. But he's saying, what about what we could imagine doing together? The collective powers of humanity, with each of us having some say in the shape of things. It's worth thinking about.
In teaching an understanding of how the personality is malleable and what forces make it, Brecht is infinitely useful. The last thing that I taught at Brecht was man equals man, which is about how a guy goes out to buy a fish and is turned into a soldier. And it's a clown show about it. It's actually from before Brecht was a Marxist. Marx thought people were malleable. Brecht, having come out of World War I, thought, gosh, you can take a guy who's going on his way to buy a fish and he can be turned into a murderer. The play doesn't present a solution to that. It's just this cry of pain. This is what happened in World War I, and this is what's going to go on forever. And then Brecht discovers Marxism, and he discovers maybe there's a way the world could change so that that wouldn't happen anymore.
Brecht was always a great writer from the time he was a teenager. An angry writer, an incredibly sensual writer, completely part of a counterculture, completely disaffected from the dominant government and morality of his time.
I still maintain if he would have born, let's say, 49, right? He might have become a rock star. He loved to play the guitar, he loved to sing, he wrote wonderful songs. Brecht was an incredibly good performer himself. It's quite feasible to me that he would have become a kind of Bob Dylan, you know.
Because he was the most exciting new voice in German poetry. I mean, him and Rilke, I mean, they changed the way the German language could sound. And he wanted to be a big deal. I mean, he was he was a genius, and he knew it.
Und der Haifisch, der hat Zähne, und die trägt im Gesicht. Und Mackie...
After Three Penny Opera hits, it's the most popular show in Germany. You take a young artist who is this 30-year-old kid. His talent is recognized. He doesn't have to worry about money anymore. He's incredibly famous. He's made it. And the question is, what's he going to do next?
Mächtig welches war dein Preis?
And what he decides he needs to do is to put himself at the service of something much larger than himself. And what he does over the next few years is subject himself to the discipline of Marxism. And you watch him do it in his work, and you watch him do it in his thinking, and in his reading, and in his political life. There's a poem called Years Ago When I, do you know it? It's years ago when I was studying the ways of the Chicago Wheat Exchange, I suddenly put down the book and thought, their way of doing things won't do. These people live by the harm they do, not by the good. Much trial and tribulation awaited me. He decides that it's his job to serve something bigger than himself, and he submits himself to that. And that act of submission is incredibly admirable and imitatable.
Uninterrupted disturbance of all social conditions. Everlasting uncertainty and agitation distinguish the bourgeois epoch from all earlier ones. All that is solid melts into air. All that is holy is profaned.
There are different pictures here at different times. Today there aren't many. Today it's just this, because I was just looking at his helmet and what he's wearing. I mean, look, research is in every day's newspaper. Just buy New York Times and the front page, you have, unfortunately, research.
I'm sitting watching the Israeli invasion of Lebanon right now and feeling just, I mean, you know, I can't get out of bed and it's so fucking horrible and I don't know what to do and I don't, want to, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do, and nobody knows what to do. And it's the terrible line in Brecht's poem To Those Born Later when he says, talking about, when we went changing countries more often than our shoes, when there was injustice everywhere and no rebellion, which are two lines that always kind of kill me. And we're in one of those moments.
You have to understand Marx in order to understand Brecht's work.
Does Brecht make sense outside of that part of Marx which has passed into the general heritage of civilization? No, I don't think so. Marx allows him to absorb that people are malleable enough to be made into soldiers for causes that have nothing to do with their own good or their own survival, that we are constructed towards ends that don't sufficiently serve our own survival or our pleasure. And so we suffer our making. But if we could participate in that making, it would be our greatest joy. And outside of Marx, he wouldn't have had that. It would just be a scream of pain. If a scream of horror was enough to end a war, there'd be no more war.
Peace March is due to get underway at 6th Avenue and 35th Street. They'll be heading up to 47th Street east on 47th Street.